What's up everybody, welcome to the brand new channel, Waddy Reacts. Here we're going to be doing fun stuff. And today, we're going to be asking AI to make a creepypasta about Spongebob. Now, if you want more of these, I was going to do multiple in one video, but then I realised how bloody long that would take. Okay, because it writes a very long creepypasta. We don't have time to do 6 different creepypastas. So if you want another one, comment down below what you want to see, and I'll do it. But we're doing Bikini Bottom Spongebob. Now, I wrote in this prompt, create a long creepypasta. Allow it to be dark, allow it to be scary, allow it to be bloody violent. Okay? I got my cat on my lap. So, see the tail? So if I get a bit scared, at least I got my cat to keep me company, okay? I also wrote, it must follow the realism of the following show, making it something that could have realistically happened. So, for instance, I didn't want it to be completely random. I wanted it to be, if this happened in the show, it would make somewhat sense, you know? If it went R-rated, if it went dark, this could realistically happen. I said the first show is Spongebob, create a long creepypasta about Spongebob. Just so it knew, okay? Just so it knew. Now, content warning to you little children out there. It's okay to be a little child, okay? I was there. And you don't want nightmares, okay? I'm being responsible. You don't want nightmares. You don't want to be waking up in the night scared. So, my advice is, if you think you're going to be triggered by this, if you think you're going to be scared, please click away. There'll be other better videos for you to watch later. But we're going to be diving into this. This could be very dark, or it could not. Maybe if you're a kid, give it a little watch. If it's starting to get a bit scary, click off, please. We don't need those nightmares. They're not good. Anyway, we'll be fading to black. I'm going to put some scary music, and I'm going to read this thing. And then we'll talk about it at the end, okay? The depths of Bikini Bottom. Bikini Bottom was always a strange place. But you already knew that. A town under the sea, populated by talking fish, a neurotic squid, a starfish with the IQ of a jelly donut, and a hyperactive sponge who flipped burgers for a living. It was whimsical, absurd, and colourful. Until it wasn't. What follows isn't some campfire tale or urban legend whispered in the halls of shady shoals. This is what I pieced together from the accounts of those who were there, the ones who survived. They don't talk about it anymore. Not in Bikini Bottom, not anywhere. But I found the fragments, the whispers, and the police reports buried in the archives of Neptune's library. This is what happened when the lights went out in Bikini Bottom. It started with the Krabby Patty, or more specifically, with Mr. Krabs' obsession with it. Eugene Krabs was never a saint. He was greedy, conniving, willing to cut quarters to save a dime, but he was always predictable. His love for money was as constant as the tides. So when he started locking himself in the Krusty Krab's freezer for hours, muttering to himself, SpongeBob and Squidward noticed. SpongeBob, ever the optimist, thought Mr. Krabs was just counting his treasure, or coming up with a new promotion. Squidward, on the other hand, didn't care enough to speculate. Let the old crab freeze, he'd grumble, slumping over the cash register. But then, the patties changed. Customers started complaining about the taste. Too salty, said one fish. Tastes like metal, said another. SpongeBob, who prided himself on every patty he flipped, was devastated. He'd taste test them all himself, and sure enough, there was something off. A faint, bitter tang that lingered on the tongue. He'd scrubbed the grill, checked the ingredients, even replaced the buns, but the flavour persisted. Mr. Krabs, when confronted, just waved it off. You're imagining things, boy, he'd snap, his claw twitching. Keep flipping. It wasn't just the patties. The Krusty Krab itself started to feel wrong. The air was heavier, the colours less vibrant, the neon sign flickered at odd hours, casting eerie shadows through the porthole windows. Employees reported strange smells, sulphur, rot, something unplaceable. SpongeBob, ever loyal, chalked it up to old pipes or low-tide funk. But Squidward, who'd always hated the place, started calling in sick. When he did show up, his eyes were bloodshot, his tentacles trembling. "It's watching us," he'd mutter, glancing at the freezer door. SpongeBob laughed it off. Squidward was always dramatic. Then the first customer went missing. Her name was Evelyn Flounder, a regular who always ordered a Krabby Patty with extra pickles. She'd been at the Krusty Krab one evening, chatting with SpongeBob about her new coral garden. She paid, took her patty and left. No one saw her again. The police searched her home, her favourite spots at Goo Lagoon, even the kelp forests. Nothing. Her disappearance was written off as a boating accident, but SpongeBob couldn't shake the image of her biting into that patty, her face twisting for just a second before she smiled and walked out. More disappearances followed. A groper named Carl, a pufferfish named Tina, a whole family of sardines who'd come in for a kids' meal. The police were stumped. Bikini Bottom wasn't a big place. People didn't just vanish. Rumours started to spread. Some blamed the chum bucket, but Plankton swore he had nothing to do with it. "I'm a schemer, not a psychopath," he told the Bikini Bottom Gazette, and for once, people believed him. His restaurant was failing worse than ever. He didn't have the resources to pull off something like this. SpongeBob tried to keep things normal. He'd show up early, whistle his tunes, flip his patties, but the Krusty Krab was nearly empty now. The few customers who came in ate quickly and left, their eyes darting nervously. SpongeBob started noticing things he hadn't before. Scratches on the freezer door, like something had been clawing to get out. A faint red stain on the floor that wouldn't scrub clean no matter how hard he tried. And Mr. Krabs, he wasn't himself. His eyes were glassy, his voice rougher like he hadn't slept in weeks. He'd spend entire shifts in the freezer, emerging only to bark orders or count the register with shaking claws. One night, SpongeBob stayed late to clean. Squidward had left hours ago, muttering about quitting for good this time. The restaurant was silent. The only sound, the faint hum of the flickering sign outside. SpongeBob was mopping the floor when he heard it. A low, guttural moan from the freezer. His sponge heart raced. "Mr. Krabs," he called, his voice echoing in the empty dining hall. No answer, just another moan, deeper, almost hungry. He shouldn't have opened the door. He knew it even then, but SpongeBob was SpongeBob. Curious, loyal, unable to leave a mystery unsolved. He grabbed the handle, the cold metal biting into his porous hand, and pulled. The freezer was dark, the usual stacks of patties and buns shrouded in shadow. But there, in the corner, was Mr. Krabs. He was hunched over, his back to SpongeBob, his claws moving rhythmically like he was tearing something apart. "Mr. Krabs," SpongeBob whispered. The crab turned and SpongeBob screamed. Mr. Krabs' eyes were gone, replaced by black, oozing voids that seemed to suck in the light. His claws were stained red, dripping with something thick. In his grip was a chunk of something. Flesh? Coral? SpongeBob couldn't tell. Behind him, the freezer walls were smeared with the same red stain SpongeBob had seen on the floor, but now it was everywhere, glistening like fresh blood. "SpongeBob," Mr. Krab rasped, his voice a wet gurgle. "You shouldn't be here." SpongeBob stumbled back, his mop cluttering to the floor. He ran, his square legs pumping, out of the Krusty Krabs and into the night. He didn't stop until he reached his pineapple house, locking the door and hiding under his bed. Gary, his snail, meowed softly, sensing something was wrong. SpongeBob didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those black voids. that dripping red. Next morning he went to Patrick's Rock. Patrick, as usual, was clueless, eating a kelp sandwich and watching TV. SpongeBob told him everything, his voice shaking. Patrick, for once, didn't laugh. "That's creepy, buddy," he said, his starfish face paling. "Maybe we should tell someone, like Sandy." Sandy Cheeks, the squirrel scientist, was the smartest person SpongeBob knew. She knew what to do. They found her in her tree dome, tinkering with a new invention. When SpongeBob recounted the story, Sandy's expression darkened. "That don't sound right," she said, adjusting her air helmet. "I've been hearing things too. Strange readings from the ocean floor, seismic activity, chemical spikes, something stirring down there deep in the trenches." Sandy agreed to investigate. The three of them, SpongeBob, Patrick and Sandy, headed to the Krusty Krab that night, armed with Sandy's scientific gear and Patrick's, well, Patrick. The restaurant was dark, the sign unlit. The door was ajar, creaking in the current. Inside, the air was thick with that same stench. The freezer door was wide open. Sandy led the way, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. The freezer was worse than SpongeBob remembered. The walls were coated in that red-black ooze, now pulsing faintly, like it was alive. In the center of the room was a pile of Krabby Patties, but they weren't normal. They were misshaped, glistening, with veins of that same ooze running through them. And there, at the back, was a hole in the floor, a jagged tear in the metal, leading down into darkness. "What in tarnation?" Sandy muttered, shining her light into the hole. It seemed to go on forever, a tunnel burrowing into the ocean floor. The water around it shimmered unnaturally, like it was resisting the light. Before they could decide what to do, they heard it, a scream, high and piercing, from somewhere below. SpongeBob's heart sank. "That's Squidward," he cried. Without thinking, he dove into the hole, Sandy and Patrick scrambling after him. The tunnel was narrow, its walls slick with that same ooze. It pulsed under their touch, warm and alive. The deeper they went, the louder the sounds grew. Moans, screams, wet tearing noises. SpongeBob's optimism was gone, replaced with a primal dread he'd never felt before. They emerged into a cavern, vast and dark, lit by only a faint bioluminescent glow, and there in the center was Mr. Krabs, or what was left of him. His eyes was bloated, his shell cracked and oozing. His claws were enormous, jagged, dripping with that red-black sludge. His eyeless face turned towards them, and he smiled. A horrible tooth-filled grin that stretched too wide. Around him were bodies, fish, crabs, even a whale. Their flesh torn and mangled, their eyes blank. Squidward was there, tied to a coral spire, his tentacles slashed and bleeding. He was alive, but barely, his eyes wide with terror. "SpongeBob," Mr. Krabs gurgled, his voice echoing in the cavern. "You found me secret recipe." Sandy stepped forward, her laser cutter raised. "Eugene, what have you done?" she demanded. "It ain't me," he said, his voice breaking. "It's the patty. The patty. It showed me. Down here in the dark. It's alive, Sandy. It's hungry." SpongeBob realized then what the patties had become. Not just food, but bait. A lure for something ancient, something that lived in the deepest trenches of the ocean, something that had been sleeping until Mr. Krabs' greed woke it up. The ooze, the disappearances, the taste of metal, it was all connected. The Krabby Patty wasn't just a burger anymore. It was a vessel. Sandy fired her laser, but it barely grazed Mr. Krabs' shell. He lunged, his claws slashing through her air helmet. Water flooded in, and Sandy collapsed, gasping. Patrick screamed, grabbing a rock and hurling it, but it bounced harmlessly off Mr. Krabs' mutated form. SpongeBob ran to Squidward, cutting him free with a shard of coral. "We gotta go," he shouted, dragging Squidward towards the tunnel. But Mr. Krabs was faster. His claw caught Patrick, pinning him to the cavern floor. SpongeBob froze, torn between helping his best friend and saving Squidward. Patrick's eyes met his, wide and pleading. "Run, SpongeBob," he gasped as the claw tightened. SpongeBob ran. He hated himself for it, but he ran, pulling Squidward through the tunnel and back to the surface. They collapsed outside the Krusty Krab, gasping as the town sirens wailed in the distance. The police arrived, then the Navy, sealing off the restaurant. They found the hole, the ooze, the bodies, but Mr. Krabs was gone. So was Patrick. The official story was a gas leak, a hallucination, a cover-up. The Krusty Krab was demolished, the site coroned off. Bikini Bottom tried to move on, but it was never the same. Squidward left town, his clarinet abandoned. Sandy recovered, but she never stopped her experiments, haunted by what she'd seen. SpongeBob stayed, living in his pineapple house, but he never smiled the same way. He never cooked again. They say the ocean floor is quiet now, but fishermen avoid that part of the sea. Sometimes at night they hear things, moans, screams, and the sound of claws scraping coral. And sometimes, when the tide is low, you can smell it, sulphur, rot, and the faint bitter tang of a Krabby Patty. Bit bloody dark. What are we saying? Jeez. So the story's about Mr. Krabs like feeding the Krabby Patties to some ancient vessel or something. I don't know if that's correct, but that's the vibe I was getting for it. He's feeding some ancient vessel. If you guys understand it a bit better, let me know. I'm the one who read it, but I'm guessing he was feeding the Krabby Patties to this ancient vessel, and it demanded more, and it mutated Mr. Krabs. And bloody Squidward said, "Oh, I'm out of here, mate." Left his clarinet behind. Poor Patrick went missing. He's gone. What's going to happen to Patrick? We might need to do a part 2 of this story. See where it's all at. And if you want that, comment down below and I'll make it if you want it. And SpongeBob, he's chilling, but he's not the same SpongeBob. His friend's missing. Squidward's missing, who he considers as a friend, even though Squidward hates him, but he's missing too. It's a pretty dark story. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys got from it, because, yeah, I was a bit confused, but overall, I think it's a good little creepypasta. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want me to do the same, please like, subscribe, and comment. New channel, so if you want to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. We can do another one of these. It would be dope. Anyway, guys, as always, have a good one. Love you all. And have a good one.